G'day everyone, my name is Zach and welcome back to Printed. This week I have a fun little video planned because for those who don't know, I'm a cheeky little Carcharodon fan and I saw some inspiration online. I think it was on Reddit. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but I will leave an image somewhere on the screen here to give them credit. But I saw these and I thought, that looks easy, I'll do that myself, which kind of. Did I do it well? Watch till the end of the video. But without further ado, I'm very excited to jump into this, so let's see how we made this awesome Carcharodon Terminator. Now, when it came to approaching this conversion, I wanted to keep it more or less as simple as it could be, but make the model seem a little bit more Carcharodon-y than your normal Terminators. Now, as per usual, I just built this model up nice and quickly. I'm not going to be making any changes to this besides adding pieces later. So you can more or less start this by just creating all of your Terminators, building them up with whatever loadouts you need, and then just going from there. This was pretty easy. I just did the usual cleanup and everything. The mod lines on the Games Workshop models have actually been so much better in recent kits, which I absolutely love because I freaking hate building things, let alone getting rid of mod lines. For all of this, I did also use some plastic glue, which just helps weld everything together, and moved on to the next step. Now, to get this model feeling really sharky, I actually went ahead and designed a simple little shark fin for the top of the model. This is the only conversion piece that we're going to be putting on it and making it look like kind of a shark. I will leave a link to this down in the description down below, so if you'd like to print one out for yourself, feel free to do so. I will not admit how long it took me to design this. I'm more or less a basic designer in Blender, and it has been a hot minute since I picked the tools up. So it took me maybe roughly about an hour to get everything all said and done. It was mostly just getting the shape right, comparing it to a lot of pictures and everything, and just putting a slightly stylistic look on it. Before I release this, I may quickly fix the model because there's a couple of things I'm not super happy with, like there is some gaps with the armor. But for the time being, I will just release the one that I designed initially, so if you want to get the ball rolling, you can. I would just recommend using a little bit more super glue than usual to hopefully fill in the tiny gap that's underneath it. Now, to get this thing attached, all I'm going to do is just use a little bit of super glue and then try to get it as centered as I can on the model. It's more or less easy to do on certain models because they have little markings on the back of them, but for the most part, you're just going to have to eyeball this and then hope that it's straight. I used a bunch of super glue and just filled a little gap underneath it, and then after putting some accelerator on the back of the model, I gently held it in. So I'm more or less using the little square thing in the back here as a kind of a guide and just having it sit right on the front of the model because I want the fin to be seeable from both the back and the front. As you can see, it attaches very, very nicely, and that's all the conversion is. Now, I was inspired by the original photo that I did see, so I ended up just getting some cork. This is some stuff that I've already glued together from another project, and as you can see, it's kind of created a nice thick cliff-esque surface. So I more or less just compared the model and sort of lined its feet up to where I thought they would look the best. As you can see, I get it just at the front here because it's kind of two nice foot-shaped little cliff things. I apply a bunch of super glue. I should say as well, this stuff that I'm using is a little bit thicker than the other stuff that I tend to use, and I find that it gets a slightly better grip and doesn't really go everywhere because I am notorious for getting super glue absolutely everywhere on me, and it's not fun to pull off. Now, once that was all nice and dry and fully set, I just came back in with my clippers and really crudely tore chunks out of the cork. I'm not really going for any sort of process here. I'm just trying to tear things in a way that looks semi-natural and have a little bit of fun with it as well because it's really fun just destroying stuff. And after attaching the model to it with a little bit more super glue, I'm just going to tie everything together with some texture paste. Now, this doesn't really matter what color or what sort of texture you're going for. At the end of the day, I am going to be painting over this, but if you want it to be a specific color or sort of type of brown, I would do this after we finish the painting and everything else. But it's really simple to do. All I did was just grab my paintbrush and very, very messily just slapped it on the base. All I'm trying to do is just blend the actual cliff surface into what is actually going to be water later on and get nice and thick. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually going to be painting this entire model without an airbrush. If you would like, you can use an airbrush to speed up the process, but I tend to find that it can take a little bit more time for one miniature. So I decided just to use my paintbrush because I kind of want to plan an army around this theme and really push the shark vibe. So I would like the option of being able to paint things by hand, but if I really want to, go over and just do them with the airbrush. Now, to get this model rolling, I actually had a little bit of cracking in the undercoat. This was solely because I was impatient and went a little bit too thick, but it's very, very easy to fix. All we're going to do is just come in with some Vallejo black and just really thinly go over any of the areas that are cracked. This will slightly change the appearance of the black paint, but it shouldn't matter too much because we're going to come in with some Dawnstone next and just go over absolutely everything. Now, starting with some Dawnstone, we're just going to go over every single area we can. When applying this coat, as you can see, it is quite transparent. This is mostly because the paint is a layer paint and we are putting it over a very, very dark base coat, so it's not going to cover perfectly. Fortunately enough, what we can do is we can just come in with multiple layers and slowly build that opacity up. If you would like, you can do one thick layer, but just make sure that you're not going to obscure any of the details because there is a lot of tiny little things on this model. As you can see, the model is looking fantastic after that first coat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just make sure we get full opacity with this paint. As you can see, the model looks fantastic with all the coats on, and in the end I did only end up doing 3, so it wasn't too bad. If you are doing this on an army sized scale, you're most likely going to use maybe an airbrush or even just start with a grey primer to begin with. To make things so much quicker and easier. Next up, what I'm going to do is just fill in any areas that I want to be black. This is just going to be done with some Black Legion contrast paint, and we're also going to prep the areas that we want to be metallic later. As you can see, I'm starting on the power fist here because their power fists are black, and then you'll also notice that when I go around the model, I'm going to be picking out areas that will do metallics later. This just means it's a little bit easier to get the full coverage and we get slightly nicer color. Now I'm also going to go ahead and just do all of the white areas that we want later. As always, I'm just going to start with our white gray from Vallejo and just go over any areas that we do want to be pristine white later on. This gives us nice coverage and we're not going to have to do like 30 layers of white just to get to the opacity that we need to. We start off with this one and then we only do 1 to 2 coats of white. Next up, I'm just going to fill in any of the details that we want to be gold, things like the Aquila and just some of the icons on the gun. This is a nice, quick and easy step. Next up, we're just going to go around the model and pick out any colors that we want to be metallic. Now I'm actually doing this slightly differently. I'm not doing a full base coat over the entire area that we're making metallic. What I'm going to do is actually just leave it the black color that we had before, just leave that in the recesses and then just do all the top areas. This can be a little bit tricky, and if you want to go ahead and just do a full opaque coat and then just do a null and oil wash later, you can 100% do that, but I'm trying to save myself a little bit of time and make things easier. Now this is one of the funnest parts of painting Carcharodons, and that is doing all the markings on the model. Now there's actually no rhyme or reason as to what I'm painting here. I'm just painting whatever I feel looks good in my eyes. Now I'm going to be using 2 specific colors, mostly a white color, but then also a red color, because this is completely ripped off from the models that I'm taking inspiration from, and I just absolutely adore how they turned out. Now, similar to mine, yours may not turn out perfectly on your first try. I am very new to freehanding in general, so I kind of just did things that felt right, and I find that very nice straight lines with little geometric patterns were the easiest for me to do. I tend to find that the curved and like really complicated things look kind of strange. So yeah, I basically went around and did these patterns on both of the shoulder pads, the power fist, and then also on his left hand leg. I think it kind of makes the model look really cool, but you can honestly do these patterns wherever you want. Now, if you do mess up with these, you can come back with the Black Legion contrast paint and just carefully take areas that you're not super happy with, wait for it to fully dry, and then just redo the pattern. Now, as you can see, I did come back in with some Mephiston red for all the red patterns, and just added some wherever I felt like it. I did also use the Mephiston red while I had it on my palette to pick out things like the eyes and then the little red lens. Now I actually almost forgot this, but we're going to quickly do the purity seals while we're here. Just using a little bit of Screamer Pink to fill in the waxy area, and then just using some Xandri dust or an equivalent paint to do the little scroll thing. Now that we've got the majority of the model done, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to panel line all of the areas with Nuln Oil. This helps bring a little bit of definition, and if you really wanted to, you could shade the whole model down, but that does mean that you're going to have to come back in with that color and redo absolutely everything with another layer. So I just find that washing this is super easy to do. Believe it or not, I actually haven't had a pot of Nuln Oil for a couple of years now. The one that I've been using is a custom mix, and I figured out that I should probably just go buy some because it's a little bit more viscous and gets into the crevices much nicer than my custom mix. For any of the areas that we painted gold or didn't paint with a Nuln Oil, I'm actually going to come in with some Seraphim Sepia and just put it all over them. This helps bring a little bit more definition and gives us a little bit more visual contrast because we don't want everything to be darkened with the same wash. Now that step's all done and dusted, we're going to go and do a little bit of dry brushing on the base. I'm not going to do anything too fancy for this. I want it to be nice, quick and simple. So after brushing it off on my tea towel over here, I'm just going to come in and do like a really heavy mix over this. As you can see, it picks out the rocks really nicely, and if we want to go up in a highlight, we can just add some white or even like a screaming skull to give a little bit of extra color depth. Next up, I'm just going to come in with some pale sand and mix a little bit into our Storm Vermin fur, and then ever so carefully just do the top and the raised areas of the stones. This adds a little bit more definition and just makes it come together a little bit nicer. Now with that said and done, I wanted to create a very simple and easy water effect on the base here. So I slapped a bunch of Cantor blue on it and slightly pushed it up on the rocks as well, so it looks like the waves are lapping up. Now while this is dry, I'm actually going to come in with some of our white grey, more or less overbrush it over the top of the raised areas. For those who don't know, if you don't know what overbrushing is basically getting a brush with a bunch of paint on it and then more or less using it as a slight dry brush. And we're going to kind of combine this with a little bit of wet blending, which I know sounds very scary, but it's super simple to do. Basically, while our blue paint is still very wet, I'm going to get that grey color and then go over all the raised areas. As you can see, since it's a little bit wet, it actually mixes in and kind of makes it look like the peaks of a wave. This is a super simple effect to do and it saves you so much time. And then I more or less just kind of work around this and blend it in a little bit. And as you can see, I think this really very well sells the ocean looking effect. And last but not least, we've got to chuck a black base rim on this guy and call him complete. Now, let's get ready for the big reveal. As you can see, I am super duper happy with how this model has come out. For a paint job that maybe took me about an hour to an hour and a half, mostly waiting for the paint to dry, I am really impressed with the effect that we've gotten. The shark fin on his top looks amazing. It really sells the Carcharodon look. The watery base is incredible, and I can't believe that it took me such little time. Now, you may be wondering why he doesn't have a Carcharodon symbol on his shoulder, and that's because I originally planned to 3D print something, but it didn't really pan out, and I was kind of running out of time, so you may or may not see me upgrade him slightly in the future, or even talk about 3D transfers in general. But overall, I am super duper happy, and if you want to take this model a little step further, what you can do is edge highlight everything. You could even layer a little bit up to give like the panel some gradation, and do a few other things like layer up on the golds and do another coat. But overall, I think for the time investment that I have put into this little guy, he looks incredible. Just want to say a massive shout out to everyone who has reached this far in the video. If you did like what you saw and you would like to see some more, leave a comment down below and I might just convert the next Legion that you say. Now, a massive shout out to everyone for joining the community and showing your support. I really appreciate it, and I'm actually at the point where I'm earning a little bit of money off of YouTube. It's anywhere between 75 cents to $1 a day, which isn't much, but at least it is something, and I look forward to continuing the channel and doing bigger and better things. So a massive shout out to you beautiful people at home. Now, without further ado, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and happy hobbying. Bye.